What's up guys, it is that Panda again. I'm here again with another video, and today we're going to be looking at the late game field marches. Hopefully this video won't be too long, and if it is, I hope you guys don't mind, as there is just a good amount of stuff I want to cover. I will start off the video just by explaining what I'm going to do this video. I feel that the biggest issue for me doing videos like this is it's really hard for me to cover the complete audience, right? Like I could always do my favorite 5 field marches, right? But then I will be kind of missing out on a big majority of players who aren't able to access all those heroes. And it's also just like people build their accounts differently, people build troops differently. So I will be giving a variety of options. I will be trying to include a lot of top commander heroes in one, and then after that I will be going over one that has it should have 0 top commander heroes, right? And then you guys can decide and pick and choose between those two lineups. And I will be trying to give a just really good explanation here for my overall choices. So let's do it. But yeah, this video is just a bit complicated because of that. Usually I like to run 2 infantry, 2 range, and 1 rider march. But I will say a lot of whales. And as a normal player, obviously you can do this as well. It's just really dependent on how many troops you build for, like, for example, infantry, range, riders. So if you're heavy infantry, this might work more. But I see a lot more whales, for example, maybe run 3 or even potentially 4, infantry marches, because infantry is just generally that troop type that you really like, and it's just less focused, right? So it just works better. It melts way slower. So the thing is, it's really hard for me since I do like a 2 range, 2 infantry march. So in my case, for example, right, I might use Lee and Lewis, and then I might use like Chun and Maya, whereas obviously Julia probably better in this option. I will kind of going over that, but I just wanted to say that real quick to kind of say I'll be trying to show you guys why I do what I do and why how you can kind of change it up. I'm sorry if I'm like spending too much time on this point, but yeah, if you guys get the point. So I will be kind of covering some combos. I will say, for example, I maybe use, like, for example, Peterson and Raygro, or I'll use Peterson and Eddie, and you can change this up. I think that a Dutt Eddie works pretty fine as well. I've seen this used a lot. Right now I'm using a Dutt and Tom. My Eddie's not good, that's why I don't have him here, but I do have a list, and I'll kind of be going through that. You can kind of change it up a little bit. Some of the combos are just what I run, but I do think that they can be tweaked. For example, if you want a really explosive power duo, for example, for infantry, a Dutt and Eddie works fine. But in my case, I'll be kind of just going through this, and mine isn't a Dutt Eddie, but yeah. So my first one is going to be Peterson and Eddie, and I only do this because it's just how I felt about running my lineup. I will say, like I said, if you want a really explosive damage duo, it's probably better to run a Dutt and Eddie instead. But in my case, I am using Peterson and Eddie. I have it on another account. It's just this account, it doesn't have Eddie up high enough yet. Me personally, for my rider march, I use Bella, and we use him, right? But the thing is, I will say that this can be changed a lot. You can really kind of change this based off how your account's built. If you are a spender, you can always use Catherine, and you don't actually have to invest into somebody like him. Or you could use him and you can use Catherine together. Obviously, you can kind of change this up a lot. I think the same works with Elena, especially if you don't invest in top commander heroes, or you don't have these top commander heroes. Bella and Elena works fine. If you're not a spender and you don't have Catherine, Bella and Elena works fine. If you do have, like, him, I think this works fine. I mean, it really depends on what you want. I think this can be changed a bit for just whatever you want to accommodate you, kind of maybe how you just feel right. Next, we're going to be doing Chun and Julia. My Julia isn't high enough yet. I feel like I haven't worked enough on her skills. That's the only reason I haven't used her yet. And I will say that you actually have to lead with Chun, and this is the one issue I have with her, because one, she takes 1.2k rage, which she's the only hero that requires 1.2k rage to drop her first skill, right? As well as the fact that if you make her a support hero, her skill damage drops in half. So if you are to run, let's say, 3 infantry marches, I heavily recommend maybe using Julia and Lewis, because just to me personally, I prefer Julia's overall skill set over Chun, as well as the 2 factors that I kind of mentioned earlier, which makes her more of a turnoff. I mean, for some people, they don't care about making her support, but the issue is that she requires 1.2k rage, right? And that makes her a less appealing lead hero, but then you can't make her a support, because if you do, her skill damage drops in half, and that's kind of my point there. But she isn't a bad hero overall. If you've already invested a good chunk in her, and you have the option of maybe getting Julia, I would kind of maybe hold off if you've already invested quite a bit into Chun, because Chun's not a bad hero. She's still a really good hero. I just find those to be two really turn off points. But that being said, like I said, I do still think that Chun's a good hero, and running that would be very plausible, right? In my case, I use Lee and Lewis, and I will say this real quick. You can tweak this potentially, right? Let's say you have Jacob. I have Jacob down here. I haven't invested in him. I will say that, the issue with Jacob is I actually don't think that he's a bad hero, but I think that when you're kind of limited on a lot of these hero choices, unless you're a whale, it's unlikely that you're going to be awakening every single hero option that you have. Not only that, Lee is kind of he's a good hero because you have him much earlier out. You have longer to kind of invest in him without actually having to invest in him. And the other point is he's a police station hero. I mean, you can passively get his relics and stuff for him, whereas for Jacob you actually either have to get him in, I think he's, is he a top commander? Yeah, he's a top commander here. You actually have to get a shard in top commander, and if you don't get those top commander shards, like if you unlock him and you don't get a ton of shards to kind of skill him up, you have to invest a bunch of relics to actually make this guy very, usable, right? But you guys get the point there, right? And I will say Lee Lewis works fine. If you guys are someone who's able to invest in Jacob, feel free. You can replace Jacob with Lee. That works just fine. And finally here is going to be my Dut Tom. I like a Dut and Tom here. I do think that this duo works fine. But like I said, if you are someone who wants to kind of change it up, you could always run a Dut and Eddie, and maybe you do Peterson and Tom, Peterson, and maybe even Bianca. The thing is, I think that's very, very doable too, right? I didn't mention that, but Bianca is a new hero. She's not really someone I've dabbled in, but I don't actually have her yet. I haven't unlocked her yet for my last top commander. I should unlock her this top commander in roulette. But if you want to, you can maybe go sorry, it won't let me click over here. But you can use a Dut and Eddie, and then you could maybe use someone like Peterson and Bianca, right? And I don't have Bianca, but let's say Peterson and Alex, for example, maybe just using them as a buffer hero. And I will say there's obviously some things that you can kind of tweak around here if you really want. There's other heroes that are maybe more appealing to you. That really depends on, just how you stomach it, right? Because, there's obviously a hero like Robert. Robert isn't a bad hero. I've kind of put him on the scale of Raygro, if I'm going to be honest. I do think that he's slightly better. But like I said, it's the same with Lee compared to Jacob, whereas you kind of have to get this dude. I think he is a, let me check real quick. Yeah, he is a roulette hero on the bright side, but the issue is, besides that, you kind of have to invest actual freaking, skill tokens in him, or, whatever you want to call those, and that kind of makes him less appealing to me, whereas someone like Ray Girl you can maybe get from Police Station. And the thing is, like I said, I don't think that he's bad. I just don't think he's meta. I don't think he's some insane hero that's going to be making me invest a ton of stuff in him, and that just makes him more of a turnoff, especially if you have all these other hero options. This obviously isn't going to be the case if you don't have these top commander heroes and whatnot. Now, I will be doing 3 infantry march examples to kind of just for anybody who maybe wants to be heavy infantry. I think this might help some people. So I'm going to just do this real quick. And run through this. So maybe Raygro and Bianca, and I'll use Raygro and Alex since I don't have Bianca as a substitute. Maybe Raygro and Bianca. You can have Peterson and Tom. Whatever. Obviously you can still tweak this if you really want to change it up. You can use maybe Raygro and Tom, or Tom and Raygro. Peterson, Bianca, if you really want the healer to actually maintain Bianca. You know what I mean, guys? You guys get the overall point there, right? So you have maybe a Dut and Eddie. Boom, boom. Like I said, I don't have Eddie upgraded at all in his skills. That's why you don't really see me using him in my lineup yet. And in this case, I would use Julian Lewis because I don't have, the extra march that I kind of have to take care of. So I put Julian Lewis there, and then I put my, my rider march right here. So that's kind of simple. I kind of wanted to just do that straightforward. And now I'm going to kind of go down to the point where maybe you have no TC heroes. And like I said, I think that people who aren't big spenders obviously are going to struggle more in TC. It is very plausible that you will eventually get some TC heroes, maybe once every few months or once every 3 months, whatever, right? You guys get the point. But you're obviously not going to be able to attain every single top commander hero. So that being said, if you really had to maybe play based off that, I think that you can easily, make stuff work. So let's say I want Bella and Elena because, this guy is a top commander hero. I'm not going to include him at all. We're going to put Bella and Elena. We're going to assume that you're not a spender, so you don't even have Catherine, and, that works just fine. Boom, you can throw that out there. Next up, you can maybe use someone like Lee and Lewis because that's not a bad option. They're much earlier option that you can usually pick, and they still work pretty well late game, right? Like there's nothing wrong with these guys. I think that works pretty fine. You maybe use Chun and Julia in this case. Where's that at, actually? I should just yeah, in this case you use Julie as a support, right? Because you guys understand, Chun kind of has to be leading in this case. Maybe use there's other combos, by the way. I think that with the infantry it's really hard for me since there are a lot of potential combos. But you can use something like Tom and Martin, or Tom and Charlie, or Tom and Bianca, or Alex if you want him to be a buffer hero, right? But in that case, let's say that you want him to be a buffer hero. You have Tom and Alex. Like I said, there's always those other possible options if you want him to just be a little more tanky, if you want to use him with Martin, if you want to use him with Charlie, just anything like that. Next, we're going to have Robert. We're going to put Robert in here just because Robert is Robert. And, he is a top. He's not a top commander. He's a roulette hero, meaning that he's much more accessible. So maybe you want to use Robert and Raygro, and that works just fine. A Dutch should be actually, yeah, a Dut's a roulette hero as well. So I think a Dut's much more plausible to use, but you could use a Dut in Raygro, you could use a Dut in Robert. I think a Dut's obviously better than Robert in my opinion, but you could use any of these combos. You can use the same ones that I mentioned earlier if you really wanted. You could use Raygro and Martin. You could use a Dut and Martin. You could use a Dut and Charlie. You could use a Dut and whatever, right? A Tom maybe. But that's really up to you. I think it's really hard for me to do something like this because there are really a lot of options. There are a lot of combos you can go with, and I don't want to lead you guys astray, but I did want to kind of give you guys a general gist of late game marches that I could kind of go through, and maybe this did help in some sort of way. Maybe it gave you some something to think about. And I hope I wasn't too confusing with this. I will be posting in the comments, hopefully, my kind of my hero combos for you guys. And like I said, you can tweak these if you really want. But I do think that these work just fine if you really want to follow what I said. They're not going to get you killed at the very least, right? So I do appreciate you guys. I do hope I somehow helped you guys out and maybe led you guys on the right path. So I do appreciate you guys, like I said, as always. And you guys have a good day or night, though. And I'll see you guys in the next one. And that is it. Peace out.